Welcome to the Veterinary Marketing Podcast, where it's all about helping your veterinary practice attract, engage, and retain clients. Broadcasting a new podcast every Monday from sunny Southern California, here's your host, Brandon Bashirs.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode number 198 of the Veterinary Marketing Podcast. Hope you're doing amazingly well. If you're listening to this when it's coming out, I hope you're keeping everything together. Right now, we're recording. It is April 9th, and the world is crazy right now. So I thought it would be extremely timely and beneficial to talk about creating offers, content, and things that are going to help you, especially being into this whole coronavirus stuff for several weeks now, and talking to practices. I've got a lot of stuff that's going to be very, very helpful and very timely for you. In the future, if you're listening to this, you might say, oh, it's not relevant, but I think that if you think about some of these different, services and ways to accommodate the marketplace, especially in times of recession or just in general, it's going to be very, very helpful. So I think it's going to be a great episode no matter what time you're listening to it. And let's jump into today's episode. So first, before we begin, I want to mention a couple things. If you haven't done so already, join the Facebook group, The Veterinary Marketing Nerds. Go on to facebook.com/groups/The Veterinary Marketing Nerds, no spaces, and request to join. Tons of great info there. You can ask for help, get questions answered, all kinds of good stuff. So head on over to there. And then second, if you have not done so already, be sure to go and subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. That way you don't miss an episode. All right, let's jump into today's episode. So right now, the world is under lockdown, crazy times. People are scared, running out, buying toilet paper, and doing all kinds of crazy things. And there are a lot of businesses out there that are suffering as well. Luckily, veterinarians are in a spot where they are considered essential, and so they get to remain open in a lot of states and a lot of places, which is great for you. I mean, I have friends that do real estate, I have friends that do all kinds of things, and it is tough for a lot of people out there. We have to assume, too, that this kind of, there's unprecedented unemployment numbers. In the U.S. alone, 10 million unemployment claims in just the past week. That is crazy. That's the most ever in such a short time period. So it's very important to be thinking about how are we going to not only get through this, but how are we going to get through the future here? We need to be preparing for an extended, difficult time. And I think if you understand that and have that kind of mindset going in, that we're going to figure out what we need to do to make sure we get through this and make sure we come out stronger, I think that is the right mindset to have. I've mentioned in the past that volatility is a way to create opportunity. If things just stay the same and stay status quo all the time, it's kind of difficult to make a big impact on things. So if you are able to make changes quickly, try new things quickly, test out things, and understand that we don't have to be married to any of these decisions that we make. If we're going to be willing to run tests, try new things, expand our horizons, this is going to be helpful. So, something that I think is very important to think about is you have a client base. And client base of pet owners, they are actively in the market, buying things, they need stuff, and as a veterinarian, you are something that is essential to them. So, you need to ask yourself, what do pet owners buy before, during, and after visits to the vet? And these are businesses that you will potentially have the ability to joint venture with, in my opinion. So we need to start thinking, especially if the economy starts to slow down and people start coming in less because they're unemployed, and so they have financial hardships or, all kinds of things, or people are just more hesitant to spend money. It's important to figure out who can we collaborate with that would benefit from what we do, and how can we create a win-win situation for them. Now, I know that a lot of practices are doing things like local delivery for stuff, and they're doing, drop-off and all kinds of things. And so if you're not able to do that kind of stuff, and there's a need and a demand in the marketplace for those kind of things, try to figure out who you could partner with that would be able to add a complementary service there for you. So if you're thinking about businesses that are being adversely affected right now, and there are definitely quite a few, you can think of dog walkers, probably groomers are not doing so hot right now. pet supply companies, if they don't have if they don't have infrastructure, like pet stores don't have infrastructure for deliveries or things like that. Dog sitters, dog trainers, be creative and think about maybe specialty practices, people that you could potentially joint venture with. And especially, I was talking actually to a dog sitter, and he was completely shut down the other day, and I said, that's definitely not good. He did dog sitting at people's houses and dog walking, and now that everybody's at home with their animals, he didn't have any clients. And so I said, hey, have you ever considered reaching out to veterinary hospitals and seeing if they have anything that you need that they could do? Because a lot of veterinary hospitals then would be able to refer you work at some point. And he said, I didn't ever think of that. So, he was even willing to do home delivery, and just he needed to figure something out to help supplement his business right now. And so there's a good chance that he would be able to go and say, okay, I'm going to do pet supply delivery for these hospitals, or, figure out what to do. But being available is going to help him to make it through this next period. And not only that, he's going to be able to build relationships with people that are going to be potential referral centers for him in the future. So we need to think about different opportunities that may not have ever been there if we didn't have a situation like this. So that's something that I think is very, very important to consider. Now, let's talk about the next thing that I think is important to consider, is that this isn't going to go on forever. And so especially as we have different events that cause difficulty, if we're able to create demand for services in the future, it's going to be helpful when we open the doors back up again. So if, for example, if I ran a restaurant and we were only doing takeout, I would say to people too that, hey, every time we do a takeout order, we are giving them a coupon to come in to get a free sundae or to get a free appetizer when this does open. And it's going to be available the first month after the ban comes out, right? And so thinking about what can you do to make sure that people feel like they're being served, and then also give them an opportunity to serve back, because the law of reciprocity is that if you do something for somebody, they are going to want to do something back for you. There's a book by Robert Cialdini called Influence, and it talks about this as a huge principle, right? And we're not doing things just to get things in return, but you do have an opportunity, especially if you're making, people are going to be appreciative that you are open and still serving the community in times where everybody else is closed. So what is it that you can do to make people want to come in once things go back to normal? And if they think too, okay, this is something that I'm getting, and it's a box that's checked off in their mind that they know what to do and they have a time frame with it, they're not going to go and seek that elsewhere. Let's say that you close down your grooming, or you close down your pet daycare, or different aspects of your business. When you go to open again, instead of just saying, okay, we're open again, please come in, if you gave people specific reasons to come in and said, hey, once we open, here's a special for you. You do boarding for 2 nights and you get 1 night free, or, whatever it is that you want to offer. But that way you're creating demand for when that happens, and you're not just reacting when things open up again and now they're slow. So being proactive with that is going to be very, very helpful. So that is something that is working well, building lists, building email lists, and really binding clients to your practice by giving them value in advance and things that they can use in the future is going to help them from going elsewhere. So figure out what your offers are, what your offers should be when you open back up again, and the things that you are going to want to be driving people in to do. I know it's hard to say, what it's going to look like, but the stronger that you can come back when this all does open up and go back to normal, the better it is going to be for you, 100%. So think about that. What services are you going to be wanting to fill, and how can you fill that by creating future need and future demand for that? I think too that right now, if you're considering launching anything new like wellness plans or memberships or just anything to help bind the clients to your practice, if you're thinking about launching that, it's important to think too, how can you include elements that are going to be super beneficial to them right now? If you wanted to release like a membership or a wellness plan, if you included telemedicine there included in it, people would be a lot more apt to buy it probably. And so, despite it, maybe they're not going to need too much telemedicine, but if it's included, they don't have to think about it and they don't have to worry about it, and it's going to be, very helpful. So think about that, because it's going to be, something that is going to be very important. I think the more that you can do to build lists right now and really build up that demand for when you do open up again, just going to be even better for your practice, because this is going to last a long time, and the repercussions, especially economically, are going to be felt for a very long time. So get going and get started on that. Let's talk about different products and services that you can do and add on to continue to add value to your clients and make sure that you stay open, especially as this goes on longer. Who knows how long this is going to happen? Hopefully it resolves quickly, but I don't know what will be going on. Nobody knows, and so we need to make preparations for this as good as possible. So, if you're doing things like curbside, in-home visits, telemedicine visits, you could also do specials for seniors and at-risk groups who don't want to go out. And, I think, too, that once this ends and once they open it up, I think that the likelihood of just things opening before this is over is going to be high. And so there will be groups of people who will still be scared to go out. And so making sure to acknowledge that group of people so that they don't fall through the cracks, give them special attention and availability if it's possible, will go a long way, especially if you start doing things like senior packages for high-risk individuals and high-risk groups. It just is going to go so far in building goodwill with the community. So consider making special programs and things like that too. When you post things like that of, we decided that we're going to do in-home visits for high-risk seniors or high-risk groups. If you have somebody that's had cancer recently, you have somebody that has was born and has a premature baby, or somebody that has lung disease, or like all kinds of things, you could say, we're here to serve you and we want to make sure that you feel safe and comfortable. So just really establishing the needs for what the community wants, what your marketplace wants, is just going to be so important to help you get through this. I think binding the clients to your practice and helping them to really feel like they are getting something out of this is going to be very, very, very important. So these are just a few ideas. The last thing that I wanted to mention too is I would say be very careful on how you're wording your content, because people are throwing around essential a lot. And that's, I think, important to understand is, hey, we're not doing non-essential stuff. And people are saying, are you essential or non-essential? That's kind of the conversation that's going on in the minds of a lot of people. And so as you're considering describing stuff, if you say, hey, we're only doing essential procedures right now, well, that means that wellness isn't essential. And is wellness something that's essential? It absolutely is. So instead of saying, we're only doing essential work, we need to always be saying we're doing emergency or high risk, or we're making sure that we're lowering risk. So if it can be postponed, here's what we suggest, and give explanation as to why, because you're going to be fighting a hard battle if you're saying things are not essential, or if you're saying things are not needed right now, because then, 6 months it's needed now all of a sudden. So think about that too, especially as the economy becomes tighter, you'll have people pushing back on that, especially if you're not using the right language right now. So make sure that you're framing up those conversations in the right way so that you can say, hey, it is in a place now where we're taking on everything because we are not concerned about the coronavirus and the effects it can have on our community. So that's just one really important note that I thought would be very, very important to talk about. So I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, comments, you need help with anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, the best place to do that is inside the Facebook group, The Veterinary Marketing Nerds. And I will see you on next week's episode. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.